Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. Welcome to 2CTV, your global news channel. We have some breaking news from Tanzania as the protests over the last day or two have now reached a whole new level. This is now an all-out revolution, a popular uprising against the left-wing dictatorship of the country. The rest of the world, watch this because this is extremely important. And of course, you can learn a couple of things from the younger generation in the country. First things first, we're going to give you guys the latest videos. We have some worrying updates in terms of the number of people who have unfortunately been killed by the authorities and the dictatorship in Dodoma. And of course, we're going to get your reaction live on this channel. Let me give you guys a summary in case you missed it. So they had their general elections, right? Which was 2 days ago on the 29th of October. The elections were for everything, for president, parliament, and the local councils. Now, as expected, they were always going to rig the election, and the left-wing dictatorship has been in power for decades and decades now. The ruling party is CCM, or as we call it literally, the Party of Revolution. That's what they're called. Led by the president, so-called president, Samia Suluhu Hassan. She has been absolutely terrible as a basic leader. They were expected to retain power anyway, but they did electoral fraud, voter suppression, biased electoral laws in favor of the government. And of course, things began to kick off. Let's go to the first video from today. So these protests now obviously resulted in an uprising, have been led by Generation Z. We've seen the same trend around the world in recent weeks and months. It's the younger generation that are fighting for freedom, fighting for democracy, and against dictatorial regimes. Now, the long-standing authoritarian regime under the Party of Revolution, can't believe that's what they're called. This is actually the longest ruling party in Africa since 1961. Now, the government control of everything. Right now, as we speak, they have brought down the internet. We are struggling to get some of the latest videos from our sources. So everything we are getting and we are showing you guys is from a few hours ago. And there's also a massive curfew as we speak right now in the middle of the night, which is obviously resulted in more arrests, unfortunately, being taken place. First things first, let me show you the next video from there. It is impressive how Gen Z are leading the way right now, all around the world, by the way. Very impressive. We've seen the same thing in South Korea against Lee Jae-myung's left-wing establishment. But the protests, if I give you the details of what happened over the last couple of days, it exploded after the voting took place because they knew exactly how the left-wing establishment are going to be rigging the elections. It turned violent after the police and security forces started shooting the protesters. And of course, the hit back from the protesters' side was they targeted the public buildings, buses and stations. So far, we've had over 700 deaths in the country, in the two major cities. And the government response includes a military deployment against the younger protesters. Military, they've literally deployed the army. Nationwide curfews, and of course, a full out, at this point, internet blackout. Now, Elon Musk and his team at Starlink have successfully deployed the Starlink satellites over the skies of Tanzania. So they have said that you can, if you could obviously get access to the device, you will be able to get access to the internet, and some people at this point have. Let's go to the next clip. sanity. Now, in terms of the widespread demonstrations in both Dar es Salaam and Dodoma in the capital, the State House has now been targeted. The younger generation have been marching for the past few hours towards the parliamentary buildings. Protesters will continue to ensure that their voices are heard. We have been getting updates that the left-wing leaders from the ruling party have now fled the capital. This is very different to any previous protests that you've been seeing or might have been seeing from this country over the last few years. Things will continue to escalate.
Oya, watu ni wengi. Pole pole.
We also... Is this confirmed? Okay. The latest confirmation, which is again from a few hours ago because of the internet blackout, and I'm going to show you the evidence of what's going on with the internet on the ground in the country. The latest we now have is a massive crowd stormed the Dar es Salaam International Airport earlier on to try to prevent the government officials and left-wing leaders from leaving the country. Now, the president, she caused all this, obviously, by disqualifying the top two political opponents and the opposition candidates, which essentially she handed herself another term by just winning the elections by default and pretending that there is a democracy in the country. Let's go to the video of the international airport being stormed. Insane. Wow. This is how you stand up to tyranny. This is how you fight for your freedom and for your country. Learn from the younger generation right now. Now, unfortunately, they were not able to stop all the political elites from fleeing. Some of them did manage to escape. But as we said, Gen Z are leading the way for freedom, the fight for freedom, as more government buildings have been targeted over the last few hours. Let's go to the next one.
We nani unakaa nyumbani eh? Wewe wenzetu nini? Usudishe magari ya kuasha, sasa kila siku tunakula ugali na pilipili. We nani kumamake?
It's fascinating, by the way. Obviously the socialists and communists in power, they were struggling after, 2 days ago on Wednesday, to contain the protests. One of the main problems was that they thought if they just manipulate the media as usual, control the state media, they could just shut this down. The protests led to becoming a massive uprising because of the way the police and the security forces started to shoot people on the ground, on the streets, for simply protesting, because they knew this time round they massively effed up. Now the internet has been shut down, as we said. This is the evidence. Metrics show the internet connectivity in the country remains disrupted for the third day, limiting visibility into obviously the events on the ground. And this has been going on, but it's been getting worse today. And obviously the latest data from over the last few hours, you can see a complete shutdown of the internet. Of course, there's still some people who are able to just about send us the footage from the country. Protesters are also defying the curfew. There's a massive curfew, obviously. You cannot be out after certain hours, but people don't seem to care right now. The ban on protests is meaningless.
Tunurudi
Insanity. We are also, by the way, if you're watching live, we are, as we speak, we're getting some updates about the situation in Venezuela and South America as the US military are preparing for a major assault on... oh, wow. Okay, so yes, the things are escalating now in Venezuela. We will bring you guys that live update straight after this one because Maduro, the dictator of Venezuela, has now asked support from the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Kremlin to send him military assistance to fight against the Americans. And now, going back to Tanzania, the posters and signs of Samia Suluhu Hassan, the dictator, the left-wing dictator of the country, are being brought down by the protesters as the police have lost control of the streets. She might be on her way out as things stand now. The military can't really control any of this. So yeah. Now, in terms of the protesters, they've also, over the last few hours, decided to attack the network provider that shut down the internet, the networks yesterday and today, because they now believe that it's not just the responsibility of the government themselves, but actually the internet providers, they are the ones doing this, so they also need to be targeted. Let's go to that video. Crazy. Anyway, the army have now been ordered to shoot any protesters that is breaking the curfew. It seems like announcing that there is a curfew wasn't really enough because nobody seems to be listening. That's why they've decided to escalate the security. It's not a good situation. But yeah, so that's the latest from the police and the army. Protesters also have managed to take control of some of the police uniforms and equipments that have been discarded by the officers who have fled the police stations during the demonstrations and the uprisings. So they basically have taken control of some of the stuff. We can actually show you some of the footage. Protesters decided to start to wear the police uniform.
Ndio kuhusu kodi zetu. Makamanda vai. Ndio makamanda.
Crazy stuff.
Walikupima nini?
Walimpima kijua kitakachokuta. Nishapata na pete.
Insanity.
Twende baba.
Ingine hapa. Shati.
Yeah, curfew. What curfew?
Kale umesahau shati. Wakifika huko akupe saluti.
Asante sana.
Na kiatu basi.
Mwisho wa kuvaa. Mwenzake uko wapi?
Ndio kuhusu kodi zetu.
It's crazy stuff. Let's not forget, by the way, that over the last few years, this stupid dictatorship have been making a lot of mistakes, let's just say. Even during the lockdown, the authoritarianism in the country and the health mandates, the way they did it, was one of the reasons that resulted in even more economic crisis. And of course, the only way for them to continue is more tyranny and more dictatorship. Let's go to the latest video.
Haya, hapa ni Mbalizi, kimechafuka, tumekichafua wazee. Hatutaki kuelewa kitu chochote. Hatuelewi kitu chochote. Wasenge hao.
Gonna get some of your reaction in the live chat, but we can also now confirm that houses and properties in general linked to the left-wing politicians who are loyal to President Hassan and of course the ruling party CCM are under attack by the Gen Z protesters. Let's go to that video.
Mambo tu kwa magari ya mbunge haya mzee, magari ya mbunge haya. Cheza. Oya magari ya mbunge haya mzee. Oya watu waelewi I say.
Wow. Someone said, "Is that Los Angeles?" Yeah, I don't blame you for mistaking that for LA or Chicago. Anyway. Now there is a reaction from the United States of America. The embassy in Tanzania have released a statement and a warning, a security alert, US embassy. This is of course late last night that came out and it's been updated today. Let's read the US Embassy. The US Embassy advises US citizens to shelter in place. There are reports of countrywide demonstrations resulting in outbreaks of violence and roadblocks. Travel by road poses significant risk. Internet access is intermittent, making all communication difficult. Many international flights have been cancelled. Confirm your flight via telephone prior to traveling to the airport. So the things that you have to do if you are there: avoid the demonstrations, avoid the crowd, keep a low profile, monitor local media for updates, be aware of your surroundings, check in with friends and family to let them know you are safe. And of course, the information, details of the US Embassy is also on the screen for you guys. Anyway, I'm going to get some reaction from the live chat. We are getting some imminent updates. Oh, hello. From the US, by the way, and Venezuela, because the conflict is escalating. We've also just received the breaking news that a huge explosion has now rocked an oil refinery in New Mexico. We'll get the emergency update on that as well. First things first, let me get some reaction. Patricia says, this is how people take their countries back when enough sets of citizens to say not in my country. That's the thing. I mean, when establishments stop listening and in a very stubborn way think that you just have to do authoritarianism. Now, authoritarianism, which was a norm back in the day in almost every country, it wasn't just tyranny. Authoritarianism meant centralization of powers. Now, because that was by default, cultures have changed. It was a lot easier to do. These days, it's not as easy. If you want to do dictatorship, you have to be tactful about it. Look at, for example, Beijing and the Chinese Communist Party. Even they are struggling, but for the past couple of decades, they've managed to find a way to distract the public, to help some of the population in China become middle class, which kind of backfired because as people become more prosperous and wealthy and educated, then you can't really kick them anymore. So that's the problem for China, by the way, going forward long term. But this whole nonsense of let's just do authoritarianism to keep power, it doesn't really work. It eventually implodes. Chris says establishment politicians across Africa are essing themselves, and I live next door in Kenya. We've actually had some updates from Kenya as well, because we had some of the Kenyan activists trying to cross the border to go into Tanzania to show solidarity. The borders, of course, they've also deployed the military to protect the borders from the Kenyans. But so that's the situation with the Kenyan freedom fighters saying, we're going to go in, we're going to fight. Everybody calm down. Sort out your countries first. Great to see you are making a voice for us In reality, the government is butchering civilians in ways never seen before at this moment. Yes, I agree. And also, firstly, I appreciate that. Of course, it's our job to ensure that you guys get all the updates from all around the world. But one of the things that we've seen from the liberal media in the West is that every time they end up reporting something about a major issue in any country that's not Europe, for example, they try to make it seem like, well, we can't just attack the government, even if the government is a tyrannical socialist weirdos. We have to basically, in order to be balanced, we have to also criticize the protesters. So they end up basically undermining the movement. And but this is the biggest problem, that they never learn in the media. Anyway, yeah, Crystal says, don't forget the former president, Magufuli, who was a great man, did so much for Tanzania and opposed the COVID scam. Yeah, but again, go back to what happened in 2020, 2021 in the country, the way the government acted and the way basically the left wing, but the ruling party, it was pushing and pushing and pushing. And of course, the former president assassinated for telling the truth. Simply telling the truth about what was actually going on. That's what happens to you. And the fact that we have younger generation on the streets protesting when they know that these dictators, these tyrants, they don't even think twice. If they want to take out an opponent, even a former president, they will take them out. That means anybody who goes out on the streets, they are brave. They're absolutely brave. It's the same thing that I would say about the youth in Iran. They know that the Islamic Republic, the IRGC, they take out their opponents, senior figures, even former presidents who were basically part of the Islamic Republic. They don't care about civilians, ordinary people, but they still come out because they've got nothing else. They have nothing but hope for a better future. That's it. Herb says, thank you to CTV, a great, honest reporting. Thank you so much for that. And what is... we have a troll. Who wants to have some fun with the trolls? It's been a little bit doom and gloomy. Let's have some fun, guys. Free Wheel Burning says, well, no, it's actually, I thought it said 2CTV. Now it says Santos TV, so I thought it was about me. Wait, who's Santos TV? Who saying you can deflect all you want, but your little sex and drug hobbies are end. What is happening here? Were you supposed to type 2CTV? Because we don't have a Santos TV in the live chat. Oh no, there is a Santos TV. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, my cartel. I didn't know I had the. Why do you have a cartel, Santos TV? Why are people randomly attacking this guy? Who is this person? Why is there a fight? Why is there a civil war in the live chat between people who don't know each other? That's absolute insanity. It is Friday, so I guess. Oh my God. The Real Deal says Rio not accounted for. Sudan pretty quiet there. Also, as far as the mainstream media news, what do you expect? To be fair, they haven't really been even focusing on what's going on in Venezuela. So obviously we're going to come back shortly to give you guys the latest update. The US military are getting ready massively, and Maduro might be on his way out. The odds of Maduro leaving Venezuela before Christmas is now at its highest ever before. Venezuela going down is also the beginning of the end for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard's proxies, because the IRGC have lost almost everybody now. They've lost Syria, they've essentially lost Iraq almost, and they've lost Yemen. It doesn't really count. They've lost Lebanon, and Venezuela is an extremely proxy for the IRGC, and seems like Maduro and his minions might be on their way out. So, yeah, there's a fight with Santos TV. I don't know who that is, and the other person. Well, Gary says the US want him out. Yeah, the statement came from the president earlier. President Trump said for the first time that Maduro needs to go. And he will go. And Trump also said that the people of Venezuela will be free again soon. So, I don't know what he's planning with CIA, but something is about to happen very, very quickly by the end of the year. All right, there is now a fight again in the live chat about Catholics and Freemasons. I don't even know. What is everybody smoking weed tonight? What's this? Venezuela must have a big zoo as the news has them eating the animals 3 years already. The thing is, I'm still surprised how ordinary people have just about survived, because inflation in Venezuela is currently about 5 million %, and the shortage is still going on. And it's been happening now for years. And the point of that was for the Americans to basically use that to put the sanctions as well, to put pressure for the opposition to take over. But obviously that hasn't really happened, because Maduro had massive backing from the other Eastern globalists. But seems like that support has gone. It was not visible. This is, again, it reminds me of the situation with Bashar al-Assad in Syria, where everything was fine. He even won the civil war 10 years ago. And then he suddenly, within 10 minutes, was deposed because of al-Jilani being backed by Turkey. It was a different situation, but it's similar in terms of how quickly things could change when it's time for you to go, when it's been decided that you're going to go, whoever it is. Sometimes it's NATO, sometimes it's CIA, sometimes it's the eastern side, China and others. The major players will decide, and you don't really have a choice. And right now, Maduro is losing support. So from the external facts, obviously, he doesn't have support in the country because everybody hates him. He's eating all the food. And but otherwise, everything else will be happening as they should, apparently. So anyway, so as I said, we are gonna come back and give you guys the latest update on Venezuela, because the US military are getting ready to escalate the situation in South America. It's also Halloween, why not? And make sure to download the 2C TV app to get full access to the channel, our interviews, documentaries, podcasts, and chat forum. We're going to continue this conversation now with the members of 2C TV Plus. If you want to become a member, scan the QR code or just go on 2c.tv. You could use the promo code YT10 to get 10% off annual memberships of 2C TV Plus, not monthly, annual. So yeah, scan the QR code, go to 2c.tv, become a member, then download the 2C TV app, and again, go on the chat forum, our private Discord server. I'm going to be there in the next few minutes. It's just go on post live chat. It looks like that on the screen on the left hand side. If you're on a mobile device, it looks like this. Post live chat. Go join us there in the next few minutes. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.